I wish your thing was up, because I put it on successfully the first time. It's running.
Or reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, we should first offer respectful obeisances unto Supreme Personality of Godhead Orion, and to Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Being, and unto Srila Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva Yatra. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Srinvata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Vidyantasto Hibadrani, Virunoti Suritsatam, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, vents his desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly given chanted. Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Uttama Shloke, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance at classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established in an irrevocable fact. So today we got a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, entitled Purusha Shukta Confirmed, and it's text 4. Tad Gatram Vastu Saranam Tad Gatram Vastu Saranam Sobhagasya cha Bhajanam Sobhagasya cha Bhajanam Twag T-V-A-G. Twag. Asya Sparsha Vayosh Cha Twagasya Sparsha Vayosh Let me do it again. Twagasya Sparsha Vayosh Sarva Medhasya Chaiva Sarva Medhasya Chaiva Hi Tagatram Vastu Sharanam Sobhagasya Cha Bhajanam Twagasya Sparsha Vayoscha Sarva Medhasya Chaiva Hi Tagatram Vastu Sharanam Sobhagasya Cha Bhajanam Twagasya Sparsha Vayoscha Sarva Medhasya Chaiva Hi I think that's 3 times. Please chant.
Tadgatram Vastu Saranam Saubhagasya cha Bhajanam Tvagyasya Sparsha Vayascha Sarvamedasya Chaiva Hi
Tadgatram Vastu Saranam Sobhagasya cha Bhajanam Tvagasya Sparsha Vayoscha Sarvamedhasya Chaiva Hi Tadgatram Vastu Saranam Sobhagasya cha Bhajanam Tvagasya Sparsha Vayoscha Sarvamedhasya Chaiva Hi Tadgatram Vastu Saranam Sobhagasya cha Bhajanam Tvagasya Sparsha Vayoscha Sarvamedhasya Chaiva Hi
Okay, let's see, word meanings. Tat, his. Gatram, bodily surface. Vastu Sharanam, of the active principles of all articles. Sobhagasya, of all auspicious opportunities. Cha, and. Bhajanam, the field of production. Twak, skin. Asya, his. Sparsha, touch. Vayo, of the moving airs. Cha, also. Sarva, all kinds of. Medhasya, of sacrifices.
sacrifices.
Cha,
Cha,
also.
also.
Eva,
Eva,
certainly.
certainly.
He,
He,
exactly.
exactly.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
His bodily surface is the breeding ground for the active principles of everything and for all kinds of auspicious opportunities. His skin, like the moving air, is the generating center for all kinds of sense of touch and is the place for performing all kinds of sacrifice. Please repeat. His bodily surface
His bodily surface
is the breeding ground
is the breeding ground
for the active principles of everything
for the active principles of everything
and for all kinds of auspicious
and
opportunities.
for all kinds of auspicious opportunities.
His skin,
His skin,
like the moving air,
like moving air,
is the generating center
is the generating center
for all kinds of sense of touch
for all kinds of sense of touch,
and is the place for performing
and is the place for performing
all kinds of sacrifice.
all kinds of sacrifice.
Report. The air is the moving agent of all the planets, and as such the generating centers for promotion to the deserving planets. The sacrifices are his bodily surface and are naturally the origin of all auspicious opportunities. So that's really hard to talk about, but I'm going to talk about this because at least one thing there, sacrifice. The word sacrifice is there in the verse and the purport, so I'm going to talk about that. But first, a little bit. Now this Vira Rupa, this universal form, is considered imaginary. And sometimes you see different parts of the body listed a little bit different ways. So I don't think it's out of line to try to picture why I would say this here, and at least my picture is a valid attempt. So the surface of the body, which is the skin, is kind of the meeting place for what's inside and what's outside. And the sense of touch is the connection with it. So that makes sense, that it's a place for active principles of everything, breeding ground for active principles of everything, because nothing can really happen except there's a connection between inside and the outside, right? So that it happens on the connection, the surface, and the sense of touch is how we know how to do it. So the skin, like the moving air, is a stretch for me that, like an analogy, is really stretched, but the air moves the planets around. Now the scientists say there's no air in space, but there's different kinds of air, for one thing, and it's not zero air either. So anyway, some kind of air is how the planets are moving around. Other times it says the planets are held on the hoods of Sheshanaga and held that way. So all these things are true in their own way. And no, I don't know how to sort it all out. But like that, our activities, auspicious activities, are possible because of the skin. And the body moves around and the skin moves around. It's possible to do these things. So I'm just trying to say that so that we can get a little image of this thing, which is very hard to picture kind of verse. But I want to talk about sacrifices because that's mentioned. So I have looked up a bunch of things here. In the Bhagavad Gita, talks a lot about sacrifices. So, before I go to the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam 2:623. 26. This is on. Oh, okay, it is looking ahead. 2:623. Looking ahead in the same chapter. Brahma began sacrifices, and he had to figure out how to start. So he's telling about his story. He says in 2:623, when I was born from the abdominal lotus flower of the Lord, Mahavishnu, the great person, I had no ingredients for sacrificial performances except the bodily limbs of the great personality of Godhead. So it continues to explain, for performing sacrificial ceremonies, one requires sacrificial ingredients, such as flowers, leaves, and straw, along with the sacrificial altar and a suitable time, spring. Other ingredients, 25, other ingredients are utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the Rigveda, Yajurveda, and Samaveda, and 4 priests to perform the sacrifice. 26. Other necessities include invoking the different names of the demigods by specific hymns and vows of recompense, in accordance with a particular scripture, for specific purposes and by specific processes. 27. Thus I had to arrange all these necessary ingredients. And some of these ingredients are concrete and understandable, like you've got objects and elements and stuff. But then there's the Vedas and the Brahmana's sacrifice. He had to arrange for all of these necessary ingredients and paraphernalia of sacrifice from the personal bodily parts of the personality of Godhead. By invocation of the demigod's names, the ultimate goal, Vishnu, was gradually attained, and thus compensation and ultimate offering were complete. 28. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. So one thing that tells us is how absolutely and utterly dependent on the Lord we are. We can't say, well, nature is here, so I'm going to go out and find something to offer to God and, kind of reach God. Right? Of course, Brahma had to create all this stuff, but he has done so we don't have to create it. But still, Purusha, the Virat Rupa, the universal form of the Lord, he's everywhere. This is all his material form that he's within. He's inhabiting it like a soul inhabits a body. Although the body is his energy, and the energy is part of him too, which is different from our situation. But this is, for sacrifice, you take what the Lord has given you and you give it back. So you give in some way. Even it says, starting with sacrifices, invoking the demigod's names. Gradually, Vishnu is pleased. So the whole system of sacrifices is gradual. So I'm going to read about that. Let's see. 3, 10, and 11 in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So between 2 and 4, 3, 10, and 11. 10. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou happy with this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So, purport, the material creation by the Lord of creatures, Vishnu, is a chance offered to the conditioned souls to come back home, back to Godhead. All living entities within the creation are conditioned by material nature because of their forgetfulness of their relationship with Vishnu or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic principles are to help us understand this eternal relation. So here the sacrifices, the Vedic scriptures, the sacrifices that are arranged by the Lord are, to complete the story, the next one, 11. The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you. And thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So, in purport, the demigods are empowered administrators of material affairs. Let's see, the supply of air, light, water, and all other benedictions for maintaining the body and soul of every living entity is entrusted to the demigods, who are innumerable assistants in different parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their pleasures and displeasures are dependent on the performance of yajnas by the human being. Some of the yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods, but even in so doing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in all yajnas as the chief beneficiary. It's like all the hymns for the sacrifices start with Om. I mean, I know. Of course, I haven't seen personally, but I know that every time we have some verse from the Vedic scriptures, some hymn or verse or something, we see it and it starts with Om. Things always start with Om. So that means for Vishnu. And even if you're offering it to a demigod, Om comes first. So primarily it's to Lord Vishnu. So even if one is offering to the demigods some sacrifice as a business exchange perhaps with the demigods, still it goes to Lord Vishnu first, and for gradual benefit, the souls can make gradual advancement until they're ready, because they're serving somebody greater than themselves, even for business. And then they understand that if they do that, they get some benefit that prepares the soul for understanding that God is great and we should offer ourselves to Him and we get the ultimate benefit. So these are preparations well, and do you want a nice time on earth or a horrible time on earth? So you do this nice business with the demigods, who are who are individual souls, individual personalities, but their position is that they are parts of the body of the Lord. And so they are part of the universal form. I keep on wanting to say Purusha Shukta instead of Rupa today. So they are part of the universal form. We are too. Demigods are a particularly important part of the universal form, and they have certain jobs running these things that are the Lord's energy, that are maintained and supported and directed by the Lord. But they are part of this. It's very complicated to understand, and yet just take the word for it, just take the word for it, the Bhagavatam's word for it, and just say, okay, that's how it works. So it's beyond our actual understanding. But we're given this information to have some kind of, if we just take it as is, we have some knowledge. So that's sacrifices for Vishnu. That's the first time it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Possibly not the first time, but it's one of the first times sacrifice is mentioned. And anyway, this is the time it explains sacrifices for Vishnu, sacrifices to please the demigods, and we have a relationship. They supply everything that we need, but the Lord supplies everything. They are just parts of his body doing that particular role. And out of their surrender to him and desire to please him. So in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 4, it talks about different kinds of sacrifice. So I might as well just read those verses a little bit and talk about what that means. So, because I can understand 4:24. Okay, Krishna says, 4:24, a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Sort of a preliminary of the highest. 25, some yogis, these are people, I think, following our partial understandings. So some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. Some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Those are actually two kinds of impersonalists. If they are worshiping the Supreme Brahman, then they're worshiping, consciously worshiping an aspect of God. If they're worshiping the demigods, they're worshiping him as diverse and many. There's a verse that describes that. It's in chapter 9, I think. So anyway, I'm not going there right now. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, this is 26, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. So, and others sacrifice the hearing process and the fire of mental control. You're not hearing outside things. You're not taking it from your senses. You are controlling your mind, and that's the whole thing. And the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. So you're doing your family life, but you're doing it for the Supreme. Sacrifice the objects of your senses in the fire of the senses. I guess that's what it means. Marriage on the principle of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society. That is a way for a restricted sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for a higher transcendental life. That's the explanation that Prabhupada gives. Text 27. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. So, the controlled mind, you're offering all that input from the senses into the control of the mind. The mind is where the senses go. So, you're controlling the mind, it's all going to the fire of the controlled mind, and you're not acting on them, you're renouncing them. 28. Having accepted certain vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, or by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism. Maybe that is by practicing severe austerities, maybe it's the same thing or not. Or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. This is getting a little bit more into getting near our experiences a little bit, enlightened by sacrificing possessions, performing severe austerities, the Eightfold Road of mysticism. We're studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. We can more relate to that. It's more easy to understand. Text 29. Still others, this is more hard to understand, who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practiced by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. 30. All of these performers know the meaning of sacrifice, become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifice, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. So we understand this is what sacrifice is. Sacrifice means giving up something that's our sense gratification. Now, the most fundamental sense gratification we have is breathing. That's the hardest to understand how to give up. But there are those, apparently, who do it, at least for periods of time, while they're meditating. And somehow you give up something of sense gratification for a higher purpose. That's sacrifice. So advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. They're advancing toward it. They may not have complete understanding. They're doing these different processes. They don't have complete understanding yet. So, but they have some understanding. They know the meaning of. They understand the meaning of sacrifice. So they're advancing. We understand sacrifice. Regular modern people, let's say, understand sacrifice in the sense of you've got to work hard. You got to go to college to get your good job, or you got to work hard at work to get your money, or work hard. If you want to build a house, you have to take all this time and working hard on the house. So many sacrifices. You want to have a happy family, you've got to sacrifice for your babies and so on. So much sacrifice, even materially, not even to the demigods, even just in practical things to get what we want. So human life is a life full of sacrifice. But there's no use in doing. There's a temporary use in doing the sacrifices for material benefits. It's useful temporarily, but and it could help you. It could build character. It could be good for you, rather than if you just are spoilt and have everything. You don't have to sacrifice anything. So it builds character. And character is good. To have good character helps you in your spiritual life too. We have to have some transcendental knowledge, and you have to have a transcendental goal. And your sacrifices ultimately have to be transcendental. And the best sacrifice, if you have a complete understanding, is, of course, the chanting of the holy names and worshiping the deities and studying the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, like that. And so talking about Krishna, thinking about Krishna, trying to please Krishna's senses instead of your own. That's the ultimate. But there are all these kinds of sacrifices that are partial understandings. 9:16. We're going to go to chapter 5 first. The last text in chapter 5, the peace formula. It's 29. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So he's the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. He's the supreme enjoyer. He's the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. He's the supreme proprietor. He's the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. He's the supreme friend. So the peace formula is to understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. That's the peace formula. So in there we have that, and he's the supreme enjoyer. We try to enjoy, we can only enjoy, we can't. I tried it in my mind, so I don't know, but man, this is the disease why I got here, but just intellectually, I tried to understand what that could mean for Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer. What does that feel like? But I can't understand it, because I'm not an enjoyer. I'm made happy by making Krishna enjoy. Other enjoyments I get are so fleeting. There was a book that I liked when I was young, written by an Indian author, and the title is the key here. It was called Nectar in a Sieve. So you know what a sieve is. So the water goes through a sieve. So you put nectar in a sieve. That's how much happiness you get. So that's the kind of enjoyment we can do. So Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and it works for him. So the only way we can get that kind of happiness is to try to please his senses and try to make him happy, and he will give us his happiness. 9:16. Krishna says, but it is I who am the ritual. Oh, this is a verse I mentioned on the side, 9:15. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as one without a second, as diverse in many, and in the universal form. One without a second, the purport explains, that means monism, Mayavadi. Diverse in many means demigods, and in the universal form means nature. So there are people who worship themselves as God. Well, one, so I'm God, so I might as well just worship myself. And there are those who worship the demigods, and that's God to them, many gods. And then there are those who worship nature, Gaia, Mother Earth, which is just nature, love nature. It's actually the Rupa. So these are all, the purport explains all different kinds of worship of God, but not directly worshiping Him, not correct worship of God. It's not that they're just total like gross materialists, they're trying to worship God in a way. So, but these are not devotees. So they are impersonalists, different kinds of impersonalists. But text 16, Krishna asserts himself. He says, but it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. So that goes right back to what we first started with, how Lord Brahma couldn't do any sacrifice until he created the ingredients of the body of the Lord. So here it's the same thing. Krishna's explaining it's still true. We have things already made, and we can get them and assemble them and make our sacrifice. It might be an arti, it might be a fire sacrifice, whatever we do. And the things are already made, so it's like we go and purchase them or collect them somewhere. But they are made out of the body of the Lord. They are Krishna. Krishna is these things in the Achinta Veda sense, in the Virat Rupa sense, and that's his energy sense. So he is these things. So what can we do? The sacrifice. We're given things, we give them back. Instead of trying to enjoy them. Instead of thinking they're ours, we give them back. That's the meaning of the sacrifice. So 9:24. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. And he's talking about different kinds of worshippers, where they go. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors will be ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Then he describes this devotion. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. In this way you will be free from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. That means good and bad karma. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So what is sacrifice? This is deeper about sacrifice. It's not some kind of sacrificial ritual. It's everything you do it for Krishna instead of for yourself, which is a sacrifice, in a way. And it only can be told by understanding your heart. And the only two persons who know for sure is yourself and Krishna. So Krishna knows, if you're giving of your heart, it's going to be so easy to offer a flower. What are you offering? You're offering devotion from your heart. You're offering attention from pleasing yourself to pleasing Krishna. So this is a sacrifice also. This is in the principle of sacrifice. So we give that. Of course, when we chant our rounds, we are spending X amount of time. And if we can chant fast, it's less time. But if we chant slow, it takes more time. But you're offering your time and attention away from what you really want to do, which is following your senses or something you're worried about you got to get done. And you got to chant those rounds. You got to sit there and chant holy names and chant holy names and try to be with Krishna. That is the sacrifice for this age. That's the Yuga Dharma. It's so easy, the holy names are there. So Okay, one of the few Sanskrit things I can quote, the second verse of the Shikshastika. Nam nama kardivav dhanisha sarva shaktis tatarpitani yami tasmananena kalaha etadishi tavapripa bhagavan namapi dodaiva vidisham vihajani nanaragaha. Of course, I can't say the English word for word, but basically means the holy names, there's so many of them, they're invested with full potency. There's no rules on time and place. You chant them anytime you want to, any way you want to, as long as with some devotion, with some attention. But my problem is, I'm not attracted, so I don't pay attention. So that's what that verse is. So, but it's given to us so easy, so we just keep trying to chant our rounds nicely. That's a great sacrifice. So, let's see, what else? 934, the ultimate. Let's see. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So that's the ultimate sacrifice of ourselves to Krishna. And surrender to Krishna. Sharanagati, let's see, reject whatever is not supportive of full devotional service and accept whatever is supportive of full devotional service, pure devotional service. What else? Uh-oh. I think it's in my little book. Try to find it. Well, anybody want to say what those steps are before I find them? That'd be good.
Devotional service?
Surrender, steps of surrender, some steps of surrender. Accept what is favorable to pure devotional service,
Right.
reject what is unfavorable to pure devotional service. Understand that Krishna is the only maintainer or provider, and understand that Krishna is the only protector, and humility before Krishna and dedication of self to Krishna. This is the ultimate surrender. Surrender is a sacrifice, right? You're sacrificing everything material, surrendering to Krishna, all for Krishna. So that's the ultimate meaning of sacrifice. And when in the chapter 18, one last little thing, when Arjuna he asked about sannyas and about renunciation, he wanted to know about renunciation. And Krishna immediately went right to the point that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be given up. So you don't renounce those. Sacrifice, charity is, you have to sacrifice the right way, and charity the right way, penance. You have to do it according to the teaching of the spiritual master in the scriptures in order to please Krishna. But you don't ever give them up, you don't ever renounce. So you can do them in any of the modes. You can do them in the mode of goodness or the mode of passion or the mode of ignorance. You can do them purely and just do for Krishna according to the guidance of the spiritual master and the great acharyas. So that is all about sacrifice, as much as I could gather together. So we have to, it's a life of sacrifice. One way or another, it's a life of sacrifice. Yes.
You ready to take questions?
I guess. Well, let me finish that thought. This is kind of a lame sentence. This life, material life requires sacrifice too. You don't very seldom. If you have some good karma, you did some sacrifices in the past of a sort that gave you good karma, then you may not have to sacrifice very much this life. You might have it easy. But then the next life it'll start in again because your good karma will be over at some point. So then you have to start in again. So there's always sacrifices to be done. But if we sacrifice the whole ball of wax, the whole attachment to the material energy in order to love Krishna and chant his holy names and always think of him and do for him, then it's like letting go. If you only get karma if you're attached. If you let go of it, if you really let go of it according to the guidance of how to do so and just do for Krishna, you don't get karma. That's how he said in chapter 4, he said they get freed from sinful activities and advance toward the supreme eternal goal. By giving up that, we only get karma because we're attached. So we find ways to give up that attachment. We have less karma. But still, the successful transcendentalists, they're not suffering from so much karma, they're kind of aloof from it. But they're not going to go back to Godhead until they have love for Krishna still. So we still sacrifice our selfish interests. I'm going to be above, I'm not going to get karma, I'm going to be liberated, sacrifice even that for Krishna. So this is a life of the highest kind of sacrifice. We always pour Krishna, and it's given it to us in simple ways that we can do in as daily routine without having to, do something too strange. We can just do daily routine, but in a way that's sacrificed to Krishna. And then our hearts can be sacrificed to Krishna. Okay.
3 things came to mind.
Oh, 3. Okay.
I probably just remember 2. One was that we really want a karmic activity, and not good karma, not bad karma, but no karma. And the only way to get no karma is to do things truly for Krishna. It might be mixed, but to whatever proportion is not mixed, then that is a karma. What you said?
It says in Bhagavad Gita that you can free yourself from auspicious and inauspicious by worshiping Krishna, but also it said that these performers of sacrifice in chapter 4 that don't have complete understanding, have a partial understanding, they do get freed from sinful reactions by detaching.
Right. So true detachment
It's not
is, and that's part of the second thing I was going to, second point, was that the real, like I said, we don't want to take time to chant. We don't want, well, that's the problem. The material we don't want to do that, but the spiritual we do want to do that. We're just covered and we're hindered. The real us is the soul. Right, Satchidananda. And so that if we can really discover and remember during our day, throughout the day, that's the not real me that wants to goof off or daydream or do whatever. But the real me is the soul who is Satchidananda, eternal, blissful, and knowledgeable. And the real me wants to chant. So if I can stay conscious, like Prabhu says, Krishna consciousness, not Krishna unconsciousness. And that's meaning more and more every year to me. Because you can be in a Krishna environment and be unconscious too. But we want to be in a Krishna environment and be conscious. So good association does help. So the real me wants to chant. Then the last thing was this thing about the sacrifice. And in verse 6, was it 2:6:25? And it talked about the other requirements are utensils, grains, clarified butter, honey, gold, earth, water, the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and four priests to perform the sacrifice. And it was a good verse you shared about that Krishna is all these utensils. He's the butter, clarified, but he's the ghee, rather, honey, gold, etc. And it says in that verse, to perform a sacrifice successfully, at least 4 expert priests are needed. One who can offer the hotra or the fire. One who can chant. That's, is that pronounced Udgata? Udgata?
I'm not looking at it.
Udgata. And one who can kindle the sacrificial fire. You got to have somebody to light the fire without the aid of separate fire.
They had to create humans, and you had to have brahmanas then.
And then you had to have someone to supervise it, a Brahmin. And Prabhupada ends it so nicely. It says, such sacrifices are conducted from the birth of Brahma, the first living creature, and were carried on till the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira. But such expert Brahmana priests are very rare in this age of corruption and quarrel. And therefore, in the present age, only the yajna of chanting the holy name, which is what you shared too, of the Lord is recommended in the scripture, and that's the Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Kevalam, Nama Kevalam, Kalu Nastu Eva, Nastu Eva, Gatir Anyata.
Okay. You give class tomorrow, you said?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I just...
So those three things.
I remember in the Bhagavad Gita, I don't know which verse, but Srila Prabhupada was mentioning in purport that like, people worship Ganges with water from the Ganges, and they worship earth with what is produced from the earth, like flowers and grains. So similarly, when we worship Lord, we worship Him with His parts, like Brahma was creating from Lord's body. So similarly, when we worship, like Ganges doesn't need her water, and earth doesn't need her flowers, but still people worship it because it's like
It's a spirit of sacrifice.
Spirit, it's sacrifice, yeah. And also what I was thinking about, like this chapter, Purusha Sukta confirmed what's going on there. It's like Lord Brahma explaining to Narada that he's not the main person in the universe, right? Like this is not the only chapter, but this is continuation. So, and when he speaks about Purusha Sukta, why it's Purusha Sukta confirmed, because as I remember, Purusha Sukta is basically about glories of the Lord as Virat Rupa, and also about sacrifice of Purusha when the universe was created from his limbs. So, like, what I was thinking about, sacrifice, first Purusha Sukta is talking about sacrifice of the Lord, and second, that this verse particularly, and it's like, what is the reason of this sacrifice? It's like also glorification of the Lord. Like when we speak, like, my main point is that Purusha Sukta glorifies Lord's sacrifice, that I think it mentions that Lord is so opulent and magnificent that even Purusha Sukta can't describe Him. So like that, and it says that again that His eyes are this, His skin is this. I don't remember. Navel is something. His breath is this. Like this, Brahma is also described the same in this chapter, and like I think that just. When you speak about sacrifice, we can also mention that Lord's sacrifice was like, we can just remember Lord's sacrifice also during the creation, when Brahma was creating the universe. So I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Actually, you did help me a bit because I was struggling with, okay, why is it called Purusha Sukta confirmed? It doesn't say in there anywhere exactly what the Purusha Sukta is, so why is it confirmed? But you're explaining it, thank you.
Yeah, but like I think Purusha Sukta is from Rig Veda, so just hymns. So anyway, I think it's just glorification of the Lord's creation. Like, but it's not. It's actually it mentions that Lord is not impersonal. It mentions that Lord is both personal and impersonal. So still, it's just really just confirmation of it. So Lord Brahma is just reminding Narada, there is Rig Veda.
Well, the Purusha Sukta is what the demigods chanted when they went to the Milk Ocean with Mother Bhumi and Mother Ma. They all chanted the Purusha Sukta to see if they could connect with Lord Vishnu. Get some help. Thanks. Yeah. Yes.
Oh. I guess America being somewhat Christian concept based or something like that. The Christians have a concept of that sacrifice too of Christ, and it says, and I'm sure of this because I actually studied this section. It said there's no forgiveness of sin without sacrifice. There's sacrifice all over the place in Krishna consciousness. Actually, and it gets very philosophical and practical. We sacrifice our thoughts. Do I want to think about me or do I want to think about Krishna? And gambling, which is like get something for nothing, speculation. Then we sacrifice our tongue right down the line. We eat only prasadam and not too much or too little. And the belly. And then we sacrifice in the sexual realm, which is what Prabhupada said is the hardest thing to ever conquer, is sex, and that's body and mind. And I think as devotees, though, we have to be careful not to do karma kanda. And I guess maybe I'm speaking for myself, but you don't want to chant, magically chant, or magically sacrifice. Because you can sacrifice in a karma kanda way, too.
Well, yeah,
and you have people doing yagyas and getting involved in illicit stuff.
You can sacrifice to gain materially, or you can sacrifice to gain Krishna, or you can sacrifice to gain spiritually in an impersonal way, or you can sacrifice to get Krishna.
Yeah, because it's a very selfish.
Yeah. So if you want to get Krishna, that means you want to please Krishna.
like this
You won't get
tantric
Krishna unless
almost,
you learn it.
burning yogis for
So I
sex
got a
life.
question for you. What is the actual quote in the Bible? Is it that
Maybe,
or
I don't
where-
have the
where
Bible
is
on
it?
this phone.
There's no sacrifice without there's no forgiveness of sin without sacrifice, or there's no forgiveness of sin without bloodshed, which is the true quote.
Oh, you know what? It might have been a different version, like the New American Standard versus the King James.
So
Because one is more bloody than
yeah,
the other one.
You have to do the sacrificing. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
I was sacrificing to help you, but you got to do your sacrificing. You can't just say Jesus is going to sacrifice for
Well,
me.
and that's one thing we have to be careful for having our senior devotees or even our guru sort of riding on his.
Yeah, not lean on him and take advantage of it, but actually try to serve.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be us, not our guru. We got to fly our own airplane, as they say. Is that a standard?
Saying anything, but he's got to teach you. You learn in Bhagavad Gita that you try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master
Right.
and inquiring submissively, rendering service, and
Right.
learn the truth. So in other words, the spiritual master gives you instruction. But then Krishna is the deliverer. Krishna says, "I'm the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death." So, but at the same time, we got to know how to fly our airplane, right? We can't just say, "Take care of it for me. I never
Right.
tried all my life, so you do it." You know, we can't do that.
Right. Showing my, I guess, lack of study. There was a discussion on verse saying that there was a disciple that took his guru back to Godhead.
We can help
Because
each
the
other.
disciple,
We can
the guru
help
might
each
have
other.
fallen.
And they said Prabhupada come back for his disciples, but
The Ginger wants to know if you can help him with the transmission fluid. If you can.
is that
8:35.
is that time?
Right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for a good class.
I don't even know what you just said. Just went, is it?
Somebody has to help Yogendra with a vehicle.
Ginger's got to leave and he needs my help.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Prabhu, for being here.
Thank you for your participation, which was, I'm sure, active listening.
My comment is,
Oh, God.
I like to think of sacrificing sleep for Mangalarti.
That's right. That's true sacrifice. You could have slept.
That's a
And you
sacrifice.
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Pretty good.
Okay. All rights to Srila Prabhupada, all rights to Srimad.
Hare Krishna.